Here is an airmail stamp from Mexico, and we can see that it's airmail from the word aéreo in the bottom right. Above that is the value of the stamp, which was 20 pesos. In the top right corner is a golden eagle with the words Mexico exporta, Mexico exports. The main image on the stamp is a strip of film with Mexico's tricolors green, white and red on the one side, and the word cine for cinema. Finally, at the bottom of the stamp, we can see the designer's name on the left, R. Davidson, and the printing company on the right, TIEV. There is no postmark or cancellation. This stamp was never used, and there was also no date. But this series ran from 1975 through 1993. This has to be a favorite of mine. Not necessarily the stamp, but the entire series. And it's a favorite for a couple of reasons. Let's start with a quick background story. Up until the 1970s, Mexico was experiencing good economic growth. There was an influx of labor returning from the United States, and the Mexican economy was going along very well, driven on exports. However, there were some early indicators of economic instability. So Mexico launches a campaign to further drive their exports. And you may recognize this symbol, which started in the 1970s, Hecho en Mexico, made in Mexico, which you'll see on Mexican-made products. Another part of the campaign was this series of stamps, which the country began issuing in 1975. The role of these stamps was to communicate to the Mexican people and the world that Mexico is a powerhouse for exports. And you can see that on these stamps, each displaying an item that Mexico exports. The design and look of these stamps is brilliant. They're simplistic, but very clear on the message. And it's also a very colorful series, one with a level of charm that makes this a must-have for the collector. Check them out. 1982, Mexico had a debt crisis, in which it was starting to default on the debt that it was using to fund its growth. At the same time, the Mexican population was growing, creating a high demand for basic needs such as food, which the country had to start importing. What this means is that inflation happened, and that inflation was captured by the stamp series. See, the series ran from 1975 all the way to 1993, and in that time, Mexico suffered from severe inflation, which you can see from the earlier stamps that were just a few centavos to the later stamps that were thousands of pesos. You can see numerous examples of the same stamp issued with very different values. It just makes this series so rich as it captures the essence of what was going on with Mexico and its economy at the time. You can see from the imagery what Mexico was exporting, the fact that this campaign existed to drive exports, and also what happened to the peso. It's a fascinating look at a very specific part of the world over a couple of decades. Now, let's go back to that first stamp we pulled from the box. Mexico did and still does make films. However, there was this golden era for Mexican cinema that made it a top producer of films. This golden era started in the 1930s and went right through to the end of the 1950s, which of course went through World War II. And that's part of the reasoning for the success of Mexico's film industry at the time, as Europe wasn't producing any films and Hollywood was a little more occupied on war content. So there was still a need from the audiences of Latin America and Mexico to have other genres. And Mexico excelled at it, from comedies and actions, romances and thrillers. They produced some classics such as Vámonos con Pancho Villa, Maria Candelaria, Los Olvidados, and John Steinbeck's The Pearl. And the actors became just as big as Hollywood stars. The films produced back then and the actors that starred in them are still celebrated and studied today. I'd like to encourage you all to look further into Mexico's golden era in film and to look out for the stamp series. Did I mention it's one of my favorites? Hit like if you enjoyed the episode and come follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks for watching. See you next time.